Welcome to the Clutch Burners podcast, your home for stick shift drag racing, stick shift tech, and two stick shift guys. And that's Rich Guido over there.
And that's Bank Shift Billy over there with that fancy new shirt on.
Ooh, yes, look at that.
Look at that.
Nice. So, Rich, you and I had a pretty cool weekend last weekend. What did we do?
We did have a pretty cool weekend.
Quite literally cool.
Yeah. I know it's blasphemy, but well, I mean, it has nothing to do with Finnegan. But I did trailer my car down to Oklahoma to join you and participate with Trevor as well, Trevor Brandon, in King of the Open Road,
KOTOR.
Yes.
Yes.
Jared Holt put that event on. It's basically like a mini drag and drive event, or it's kind of an opportunity to get into let's go drag racing, go for a really good drive, like it was 200 miles, and then do some more drag racing. So it's a good introduction to, is my car going to make it? In this case, in the snow and the sun and some pretty cold weather, but
kind of like dipping your toes in the water of a drag and drive.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same as doing a 5-day event, but it's a great introduction for people who have never done that kind of thing before, where they trailer their car to the track and then trailer it home. And it's a whole lot different when you got to drive it. 200 miles is a pretty good stint for somebody who's never done it before. So
yeah, definitely. So and you came down for, what was the main reason for you coming down? Because you got me a little worried.
I wanted to try some radials out. So the last time I tried radials out, I bet you was 10 years ago, and I broke everything. I had 31 splines in a 12-bolt rear end, broke the Moser 31 spline. Pretty sure I broke a drive shaft. But at that time I wasn't running a slipper clutch. I was running something very similar to what Bill runs now.
And, a big hammer? Is that what you mean?
It was like a big hammer, and man, yeah. And so that's when I upgraded to the 9-inch, and then I've been on slicks ever since. But the reality is all the fast guys in the stick world, when you go to a slipper clutch or some method of slipping the clutch, radials seem to be the hot ticket. I would say their tire technology's changed enough that you can use them on mediocre surfaces, because for me as a drag and drive guy, I need to be able to use them when the track's so. So I thought this was a pretty good opportunity. And I mean, it was cold, like, I don't know, what was it, 40, 50 degrees or something Fahrenheit?
Oh, no. I think I'm not even sure we hit 50, but they said the track temperature had to be 35 and above. And certainly at some points of the racing, it was what we call boost weather.
Yeah.
I don't know about traction weather, but the track was cold and the air was good.
And so after listening to Jonathan Atkins, I actually bought a set of those tires, exactly the same he was running. And then
those are the VR2s?
The VR2s, yes. Let me know how they work for you. And I tried to stuff them into my wheel well, and they were just they're a 275 60/15, which is the exact same as my street tire, but they've got a very large sidewall on them that bulges out. And so they wouldn't work. So I had another buddy, Dan Jackson, close here, and he had a set of the Mickey Thompson Pro Bracket radials, which they label them as 28-10-5, and they're half an inch in total width less, and they're perfect. They fit my car. So that was the real reason I came to Oklahoma was just to deliver Bill his new tires that I bought and tried.
Right. Yeah. So now I was very concerned about even getting radials, and I was like force fed them. So in all fairness, I did bring my wheels. We mounted them up, but I did not try them that weekend. I feel like I was having a couple of other issues. I had put fresh clutch discs in and was not quite right on the money for settings for my clutch controller. And probably we did test it a bunch of times to try to get it dialed in on the back down on the pit road. I don't think the track was too happy about that, so I didn't get it 100% right. But it was okay because Ben Wise was there with his Trans Am. Dude, he killed it. Not only did he run personal bests, but his first 8-second pass, but he also won the stick class. Super cool dude and super exciting. Like, I got to race him, and that car was working, man. It was pretty sweet. It was cool to see.
Well, and it was funny because the first pass, well, I only made 1.25 passes after going all that way. But my first pass, I raced Ben, and I seen this Trans Am pulling up beside me with a parachute on, and I was like, I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And I think I might have got him on the tree, and I was running low boost. It was just a test pass for the radials, and ran 144 60 foot, which is really good. And then went 898 at like 150 miles an hour, so about 15 miles an hour slower than I would normally run due to lower boost. And so I didn't really see him, didn't think too much of it. And then later on that day, I looked at the time slip, and he kicked my butt in the 8th. Like, he ran a 576 to my 585 or something. I'm like, oh,
you showed that dude. You showed that to me, and we were like, and then he ended up trapping like, was it like 109 or something?
Yeah, he went 10-0s. He missed, I think he missed the 2-3 shift or something.
Well, he told us that later, but initially we were like,
I thought he was sandbagging.
We're like, this mofo, he's just sandbagging.
Yeah, he doesn't want to show us all the cards right off the bat.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So if I tell the rest of my story, then we can talk about what went on with you, Bill. But yeah, so that was good. I was really happy. The radials were great. There's
so great.
a few people with GMA bodies that I talked to about, how I should set my car up. Honk if parts fall off, if people are familiar with him. Rick Stinky, he told me where he sets his up. And I mean, he runs on 235s and he kills it. So that's basically what I did. I went full compression on all 4 shocks, almost full tight on extension on the front. And then on the back, I went like halfway on my shock settings to allow the tire to drive into the ground. And it freaking worked. And so then the next day, for some reason, we were sleeping and we missed our qualifying pass. So we went up and so it wouldn't have counted for qualification, but we didn't care. Both of us are just trying to figure out our cars. And I launched the car and it took off. It felt great. I was back to my normal boost. And at 1.3 seconds into the run, for reasons unknown to the driver, he shifted at 6,400 RPM. And I don't know if it was because the clutch was still slipping or what, but
it did do a 141 60 foot on that pass.
And it did a 141 60 foot. And that was, there was no motive force after 1.3 seconds. So I'm thinking it was on a 135 60 foot. Like, it was pulling hard. Like, everything was looking good. And then didn't go into second. And I don't know if I broke the clutch fork there, or if I tried to jam it into gear again. That's when I broke it, because I was racing Bill. And so then he proceeded to take off, and I coasted to the first turnoff at Thunder Valley, and I managed to get off the track, and I park, and as I get out of my car, I see the lady pull up in the quad, and she's kicking my drive shaft off the track, and I'm like, I kind of need that to get home. So I go over there and wipe the slip yoke off and shove it back in the transmission. And I had twist ties, or cable ties, and I mounted the drive shaft, and then got towed back to the pits. And I was pretty sure I broke the transmission. I didn't know I had broke the diff. So the first thing we did when we jacked it up was check and see if the transmission was broken, as well as the yoke. And Travis will throw some pictures in here, but anyways, we should welcome Alex. Hey. There
Yeah,
she is.
so
Hey.
we have Alex Taylor on here. And so winner for the second year of Hot Rod Roadkill Nights in a stick car of all. And
I know, right?
she's in her mobile office tonight doing the podcast. So we're very honored for that, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So you're in the middle of nowhere. Where actually are you?
So I was in LA filming last week, and then came out to the middle of, like, it's close to Palm Springs, but came out for a filming of Street Outlaws. I'm not racing, but they're mega cash days, so I'm rode out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm actually on my way back to LA so I can get a flight tonight, like 1 a.m, so I can go home for a couple days.
Nice.
So where I'm at right now.
So that's kind of one of our first questions, actually. So tell us, I can't imagine anybody listening to this that doesn't know who you are, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into this, and
yeah,
what forth.
So,
Rich and I have known you for a while, actually. So.
I know, for almost 10 years now, probably since like 2013 or so, or 2015. But yeah, so Alex Taylor, I'm 25, grew up in cars to an extent. My dad builds, and I have been in the shop for as long as I can remember. So he used to do fiberglass Willys and production type cars, and then moved like to one-off stuff and things like that, and drag week stuff eventually. And so I have just followed him around. So that's where my heart is in the automotive industry. I've learned everything from him, and started racing drag week, Hot Rod Magazine's drag week, when I was 16 in my 68 Camaro, and then raced that for, I can't even remember, 7 years probably. I haven't done the math on that. And then my dad and I built a 55 Chevy tube chassis car last year, raced that, and then I've had the opportunity to do all kinds of cool stuff. Drive a Pro Mod Radial versus the World car. I co-host Motor Trend's Hot Rod Garage right now. So in brief, it's just all kinds of random stuff, but anything to do with the automotive industry.
Dude, there's so much to unpack in what you just said. It's not even funny. So like, all right, I'll let Rich ask a couple of questions because I have a lot already.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's back up a little to where I still remember quite well the first time we met you at I think it was in the Tech Line at Drag Week 2013. And yeah, you were all about controversy right then. Hey, like, it happened quick. Like,
rolled into the chaos immediately.
Yeah. People, for some weird reason, were up in arms that the 16-year-old girl was going to race her Camaro, and
with her mother co-pilot.
Yeah, with her mother co-pilot. Like, there was a problem with this, and that was our first drag and drive event, and it was so cool to see how the community even then came together for somebody they didn't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So quickly, right? Like, I thought that was that alone, if that doesn't suck you into this group of people, like,
as soon as I remember, like, I had wanted to do drag week for a long time. My dad traded for the 2007 drag week winning car, and he traded it at the end of 2007. Then he purchased his car, and that made me really like drag week. And then he raced that car for a couple of years, and it really made me like racing. And then fast forward, when I had the chance to sign up for drag, like the idea came that like me and my mom could go on drag week an hour, in my Camaro. I started hopping on all of like you guys remember the unofficial, official bank shift or drag week forum on bank shift.
Yeah.
And I remember like getting on there because I was just like, I want to meet everybody before I come out. And that moment when we pulled in the Tech Line and found out that we couldn't race and everything, and everybody just like hopped on board and was like, no, if she's not racing, we're not racing, was just so cool. And not expected, because we didn't have a clue that there'd be a problem, but through the course of that week, like meeting you guys and just that group from 2013, I feel like there was a lot of people that it was their first event, or first drag week event then. I remember walking away like, this is my family, like this is an awesome place to be.
Yeah, I forgot about bank shift and that forum, and because I met like Dan Nissen through that forum, and he lives just right on the other side of the border,
Yep.
So we got to know him and hooked up with him, even for the trip down. But it was through that forum. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. That's yeah.
It's been a while.
And then I remember, so I don't know that I met you in 2013,
13.
but
I
it
don't
was
think so.
14 because I
Mhm.
came down with Rich and Dan and Bob and everything to help your dad
Shop.
finish up. Yeah, to finish that the Falcon
Ranchero.
wagon. Yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly.
Ranchero.
The
Yep.
Ranchero, yeah. And that was a scramble. Like
Oh my gosh.
super
That
late
was a good time
nights.
though.
Just it was crazy for sure.
I remember
So
you guys, I think you were under, so that was another like built in just a couple minutes kind of project. Not minutes, but months, whatever.
right.
And felt like minutes. And you guys came down. I remember you were in there like wiring the car, and everybody else was like scuffing up the aluminum panels and everything. And like that was a last minute project kind of thing where
Yep.
it pulled into the tech line as tech was closing kind of close. So
Yeah.
it was a good
Yeah,
time.
because your dad, I remember your dad was like, we're not gonna make it. And we're like, no. Oh hell yes, we are. And we cranked. It was an all-nighter for sure.
There's some cool pictures from that too. I remember because everybody had their cars lined up out front and everything. It was a good time.
In front of the
So,
shop.
Yep.
Yeah, I think and how fast did you go in 2013?
There's I have a t-shirt that a lady made me, and I just remember the only reason I remember this is because it says 11.78, and that's the only way I remember this is this t-shirt. So that was my record in 2013.
And I seem to recall like you start off running in the 12s, but you were working on the tune all week and got it into the 11s. It was so exciting.
It started off like looking back now, it's interesting, I guess is the right word, that dad like kicked me and my mom out in like a brand new untested car with Holly EFI that I had literally never used prior to a week before when we started the car up, or a couple weeks before. And looking back, I'm like, man, there's a lot of trust. Like that's crazy. And so he just turned me loose for a week, and yeah, I got to tune on it, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but I learned a lot that week, and it was cool.
Is it quite possible your dad caught up on sleep that week while you were gone?
Well, you know what? It's very possible. No, actually, I probably kept him up half the time in anticipation. But that was actually probably the most laid back drag week ever, because the first like year we actually had the car done a couple weeks ahead of time, which doesn't normally happen. I know.
Wait, what?
I know. It's crazy. Normally it's the last minute. So yeah, I think that was actually a pretty calm year.
So tell us what it's like working with your dad and doing, I mean, clearly you guys have done a number of drag and drives together in the Camaro and the 55. What's that like working with your dad?
So there's a couple things there. So dad and I actually had never done a race together until last year. My mom was my co-pilot all the way through the Camaro. And so it was interesting last year when he hopped in and we were, actual partners for the first time, because me and him actually work really, really good together. We're very like-minded. So there is like, we butt heads sometimes, but not anything intense. It's just that we're so much alike that we think the same, so we argue the same. So like we argue is not the right word, but we debate the same. But we work really good in the sense of like he doesn't have to tell me what to do. I don't have to tell him what to do. He knows what I need. I know what he needs. And it's one of those things where I don't have to question the motives, of why he's helping or how he's doing or anything like that, because like there's no one else that's going to have my back more than he's going to have it. So it's really neat because like I have, especially now that I work on Hot Rod Garage, noticed that there may be something new that I take on for the first time by myself, like different fabrication projects and things like that. And I've noticed that maybe if I hadn't necessarily done it by myself, I catch myself doing the same steps and the same things because I've watched my dad so many times that like through that 24-25 years of apprenticeship, like following him around, it's like I can pick up that stuff because I've got to watch him do it hands-on. So it's amazing. It's so cool. I'm so thankful for it.
And let me add, I don't mean to dominate all the questions here, Rich, but I was lucky enough that I got to come out and help with the Savoy project, which we're going to talk some more about. But I want everybody listening and watching to know that you're not just a host on the show that holds a wrench when they're recording. Like, you're in there getting freaking dirty, burning your hair with TIG shit, and like literally, I mean, you're in there fabricating and getting dirty, and to make those shots, like, you're over there washing your hands and your face before they go on camera because you're a mess. Like,
It's a fact.
like, it's pretty awesome, Alex. I mean,
Well, thank you.
I don't
It was
think
fun having you out there.
I don't know that people realize how much work you actually do on those cars and on the show. And Lucky too. I mean, he gets right in there, and you guys are thrashing too. So
it's usually just the two of us. So that's, that is pretty cool. It's cool now to get to kind of like utilize the skills that, I've learned working alongside Dad in a situation where, Dad's not there, but he's a phone call away. So I'll be like, hey, here's my idea. Like, what do you think? And this is how I'm thinking about doing it. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And then I can send him pictures later, and it's just cool to get to like, then go home and me and him can work together on a project. And I think it's really, like, helped accelerate learning because it's now hands-on, by myself kind of thing.
Was that a pun? Was that a pun just now?
It might have been, but it wasn't intentional because I don't remember which part you're talking about.
It's okay. You can go back and watch this later.
We'll go with yes. It was on purpose. It's funny.
Are we moving on to me, Bill?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's ask a few things about. So, what's the fastest mile an hour you've ever been?
In the 8th mile, 2:11, and then in the quarter, 2:05. So faster in the
That's
8th than in the
funny,
quarter.
Yeah.
know, right?
Man.
And
So
best ET?
378 in the 8th, and then 692 in the quarter. So.
And that was in the 55.
Yeah. Well, so the 6 was in the 55, and then the 3s were in the like a radial versus the world pro mod Camaro. So
how cool was that?
Pretty cool. Oh my gosh, it was wild how it happened too. Like getting to do it just because we were testing the 55 in Florida, and Patrick Miller with the Bumblebee Camaro came down and was helping us tune, and he mentioned to me like the last day, and he was like, "Do you want to drive the spare car at the radial versus the world class for Donald Long's race coming up in Alabama?" And I'm like, "When is it?" He's like, "This weekend." And I'm like, "Is that a real question?" He's like, "Yeah, it's yours. Like the seat's open, like the car's already going." And so I was like, "Take my suit with you because I don't want to have time to back out of this. Like if you take my driving suit, I have to come get it." So it was really cool.
That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
It was super cool. It was feeling like no other. You get used to speed. You guys know that. Like as you go, like you get used to speed, and the faster you go, the faster you want to go. But that was like a very rapid, like throw you into the fire and adjust to it quickly. So it was cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's it like? Give us a snapshot of a day in the life of Alex Taylor.
Well, depends on where we're at for the day. Like so say normally like when I'm in California, for on-set stuff, I wake up and we get to set by 8 o'clock and have breakfast with everybody, come up with a plan for the day, work all day long, well until 6. It's not all day, it's just till 6 o'clock. And then there's all kinds of
your dad's all day. Your dad's all day. That's a whole lot different than a hot rod all, right?
Trust me. They asked me, they're like, "Can you handle these hours?" And I'm like, "This is vacation when I come out here, like 8 to 6." What?
Totally.
These are banker's hours.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, "What is this?" So yeah, out there it's pretty laid back, pretty structured. Some days we go out, like go to the track and actually have track days for our payoffs. So we do one of those a week. And I feel like most of the year out here right now, just because we had so much filming to do in such a short time, because I didn't come onto the show until April. And so we were already months behind at that point for the season. So lots of that. But then when I'm back at home, I honestly don't go into the shop until like 10 o'clock because I'm not home that often. So I stay at the house for a while, and then usually, even though I got a lot of work to do when I get to the shop, Dad and I sit around for a couple hours and brainstorm on what we want to do, and then piddle around the shop on different projects. It just depends. And then half the time I'm traveling on an airplane. So I literally couldn't tell you what a typical day looks like. And that's what I like. I like waking up and not knowing what tomorrow is. So
Yeah, that's
awesome.
pretty awesome.
Yeah. So you're pretty popular. I mean, you've got a lot of followers and stuff. Are you finding
just
when
busier.
you travel? Yeah, when you travel, are people starting to recognize Alex Taylor autograph? Like, hey, I've seen you before.
Sometimes, yeah. It's interesting though, because like a lot of people, I look girly usually, and so sometimes people don't put two and two together, which is fine. It's cool, but it does happen, more now. But it's just really funny because people say something about like that statement, like, oh, you're more popular, and it's funny because like I legitimately do not feel any more popular than I did in 2013. Like, and that sounds like a weird thing to say, but for me, I just feel busier. Like, I don't necessarily feel more popular. I just feel a whole lot busier. I just do a lot more stuff, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. So it's pretty cool though. There are people that recognize, and that's always a neat deal when like somebody comes up. My favorite is when they come up and they say, you're the reason that I got into cars, or you're the reason I dove back into my project, or, something like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what you're actually doing makes an impact on people. So it's pretty neat.
Or you're the
I see
reason.
lots of young kids coming up to you at the drag and drive events and want a picture with you, and that's got to feel pretty cool.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things, just because like getting to see like their excitement and stuff. Like this year, Katie Farmer at Raceway, she was like one of my favorite people to talk to because she just had so much excitement in her. And I told Meg, my sister, I was like, she reminds me of like the excitement I felt at that age, like just like she was just so happy to be in her car. And so I know she just recently had her accident and everything, but she's recovering and looks, that's really good. But yeah, no, like stuff like that I think is really interesting. That's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously you're working in a hot rod, working for Hot Rod, California. So you're racking up the frequent flyer miles.
Oh man. I mean, it's kind of nice. I did just get an email right before I hopped on that I got a complimentary upgrade. That's the best part now.
That's winning.
It's only on the hour-long, flight between, because I always have a layover from Dallas to home. So, because we have a small airport, that's the coolest thing about racking up the miles. There's a couple perks, but I'm like, man, yeah, I got to skip that line, and then I'm like, to sit on the airplane for 4 hours, like. I guess at least there's a little perk with it, but
for sure,
it's a lot of flying. It's a lot of flying. So.
Well, let's talk about Roadkill Nights. Let's talk about because this is the Clutch Players podcast.
I know. We got to talk about that. I wasn't worthy of this podcast until then.
Well, we had to wait. I mean, we had to wait.
Oh yeah.
So for people who don't know, tell us how that worked for you guys, because there was like 8 of you that all got I'll let you talk about
it. You can talk. It's your podcast too.
No, I want to hear you describe that, because I'm not sure of all the rules. All I know is that you got a drivetrain, and then I don't know what the rules were as far as what you could do. But
so the way this all came about, just a quick briefing. So last year I got a call from Motor Trend / Dodge. And they wanted to drop off, I think it was myself and five others, like brand new, very similar Hellcat Red Eye Challengers or Chargers. And so they gave us 5. I know, I was like, wow. They gave us 5 weeks. It ended up being 5 weeks. They said it was longer than that, but by the time everything happened, it was 4 to 5 weeks. $10,000 check and 3 rules. So we had to keep a stock block. We had to keep stock appearing. And what was the other one? Stock block, stock appearing. Whatever, doesn't matter. It didn't matter. Just very basic. We had a really, really rough out. Oh, you had to keep a stock blower case. That was it. Your port and polish and all that. So Dad and I just went full extreme, and we just like chopped this car up, cut everything out of it. Hurt. It was a brand new, whatever, $80,000 car, 5,000 miles. And we just chopped everything out. back half the car, put a 9-inch with 4-link in it. We swapped to a turbo 400, which was the plan this year. So that's why I'm starting with this. So we went to Roadkill Nights and won, and that car was just so impressive. It was so much fun to drive. We did it really quick. Well, fast forward to this year, they wanted me to come back as the reigning champ. So it was myself and then 8 influencers. So the 8 influencers were to race each other, and then the winner of that would race me. Well, they started off by telling us that we would have the same rules as last year, except we had to provide the car. So we picked a 1955 Plymouth Savoy. Anybody could pick anything they wanted as long as it was like a Dodge, Plymouth, Chrysler product. It could be any year, anything like that.
Yeah,
Mopar, yeah, just like that in general. And so they gave us those rules, but they're just like stock engine, and I think that's all they gave us. They didn't really give us anything. So we had this whole plan. We're like, we're gonna put a 400 in it. We're gonna put Holly. We're gonna do the same recipe as last year, like they do for their their drag pack type stuff. And then this is gonna be great. It's gonna be super simple. Well, we're in the middle of this build, and the Savoy ended up being a full frame off. Cut the floors out, tube chassis, mildly built. It's not like a funny car cage or anything, like an 850 tube chassis car. And this turns into so much more. So I'll stop in just a second. But basically, this build was really intense. And they threw us a curveball, and they're like, actually, we sent you a 6-speed manual, a TR 6060, and you have to use it. And we're like, what? I'm like, I've never raced a manual before. I can drive one, but I've never raced it. And so they're like, yep. And you have to use all of our controllers. Like, you have to use the Dodge controller. So this project immediately got more complicated, which is where Thankshift Billy came into play here, because we're starting to come up with all these modules we could add on to make this better. I was so nervous to go into Roadkill Nights because I had no idea what I was doing. I never made a pass with a manual car, and we built this car in 28 days, and then I got down to it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's down to the driver. I can't mess this up. And I felt like I could puke that day, to be honest. It was
I watched the video. You definitely looked more nervous than you normally look.
Oh, there was just so much riding on the line. This car was just built under circumstances that it should have never actually been possible to build in. My dad came out. It was supposed to be me and my dad and Lucky. Lucky got sick. He was out for a week. Then me and my dad were in the shop for a couple of days, and my dad tested positive for COVID. So then he was kicked out. So then Lucky and I were supposed to work together. Well, then I tested positive. And so then they're like, well, we're done for 2 weeks. And I'm like, if we stop for 2 weeks, this car will never make it. And so literally the day that they told us that we were kicked out, I was standing outside the shop, pointing at everybody. I'm like, grab that, push the car in the parking lot. They're like, where's it going to go? I'm like, we can't go here. We can't work on it here. So we'll figure it out later. And so we loaded it up and took it to a hobby shop that we had to build the shop to build the car kind of thing. And it was just me and my dad and our friend Greg Peterson. And then we finally got to come back to the other shop. So it was just the circumstances that it was built under, and we didn't have testing. And so when it came down to that, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest. That was we'd done a lot, and we didn't think about the fact that I've never raced a car like this. So it's okay.
So this is a little different, hey? Racing a stick than an auto?
Yeah. A little difference, an understatement.
So expand on that. This is a stick shift podcast.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Rich drives a stick shift. I drive a stick shift.
Mm-hmm.
So you were scared, but you nailed it. So yeah, talk about that.
So the first day that we went we had one testing day, kind of. It was already in Milan, Michigan. It was on a track. So the surface wasn't going to be the same as Roadkill Nights, but I was like, we at least need to know the car is going to work. And I need to just get some patterns, some repetition, so that way I can get a feel for what we're diving into. And we got there, unloaded the car. Keep in mind, I've never done a burnout in a stick car. I've never just, popped the clutch and launched a stick car. This is all something that was out of my comfort zone. And so as we unload the car at the track and I'm pulling forward, I'm like, thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like it's the fake it till you make it thing. That's what happened. Cause I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm like, all right, pulled to the burnout box and attempted a burnout and, pulled up to the lights and let go of the button or not the button. See, I'm used to saying that. Like off the clutch and like this thing pulls the wheels on me and just like does a massive wheelie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like one, I've never done a wheelie, and two, like what do I do next? Now I gotta shift. And so the car sits back down and like I go to pull second and I totally missed that shift. And I'm like, well, that wasn't good. Like it was cool, but that wasn't good. So we come back and I'm just like, there's an open area at the top of the track, and my dad's just like, go up there and practice until you like just practice making second. I'm like, okay. So I'm like just like back and forth in this little square. I think like probably it was a burnout box, and I'm trying to like second, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. Like we're good. So I go back up for a second pass, and I miss my shift again because now I'm buckled in. I finally figured out that like me being buckled in, and then the clutch was not set right, so I was never getting it disengaged, even though I was pushing the pedal in. This is all, we all figured this out, but first I'm like, man, I suck. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I hot lap this. I turn around to make a third pass back to back, smoke the clutch. I called Bill and I'm like, how long am I supposed to wait? He's like, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm like, okay.
Between that's passes. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, that's new. Also, didn't know that. So we heard the clutch the first day.
So let's tell them you were running an RXT 1200.
Yes.
So a ceramic type clutch.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't know I literally had no idea what the process for that was. And so I called you, and I think you checked with Rich, didn't you?
Yeah, we were talking
like how.
Yep. It was a collaborative effort.
I messaged your dad too to stuff a stick in there and just get the clutch to open up to try to help it cool so it would cool quicker for you.
I was gonna say, you guys gave us the idea on like how to make it cool quicker, and then gave us an idea on how to get it set up right. There was a guy at the track who had a very similar setup, and he was like, check, the stroke and everything like that. And we finally got that a little bit adjusted, and I figured out that once I was strapped in, I didn't have the leverage to pull back. I don't have that strength, and the way the shifter was, it was low, and it was a shifter from Red. Red Roberts.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was a nice shifter, but I couldn't get that second gear pull. So we ended up taking a spanner wrench, a really long spanner wrench that's for my 55, and taped it on to the the actual shift lever. And that's what I ended up using for the week. Because so it took finding the combination of getting the clutch right, or the actual throw on it right, and not messing up the switch that we'd installed that you recommended and everything, and then getting the actual movement. So we ended up moving to the back track after that because they flipped the track so we could get more street like prep. And I finally got a couple 1, 2, 3 shifts and figured out I was gonna have to like granny shift it, like let off the throttle to actually get it to work. I still hadn't had a clean pass going into Roadkill Nights. And we went to Roadkill Nights, blew out a master, the
hydraulic release bearing.
Hydraulic release bearing. See, it's all different terms for me.
Yeah.
Blew that out. Happened to have a spare with us. That's the second time we'd done that. It's just a lot. Like I'm rambling right now because there's a lot. A lot happened. So it came down to the day of, and I was like, this isn't gonna work. And so, long story short, got the actual Roadkill Nights. I got my first pass, missed my shift. I was panicking because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then I got 2 more test passes and finally got a clean, like I got it in my brain what a good clean pass felt like. And I felt good about it at that point. And then I went into the actual race that mattered, and like, can't tell you the feeling that I felt when I actually made every shift, and it just, watching the in-car and everything, I was like, okay, once I felt it, like it worked. But that learning process in such a short period of time was terrifying.
Yeah. So honestly, you killed it because you're right. It's very complex. And I think it's what Bill and I enjoy about it is that, Alex Taylor can't hop in my car and go rip off the same times as me. Well, maybe she could now, But
I
as
don't know.
compared to an automatic, where lots of times if you show me the routine and I hit the resume button, I'm going to be pretty close to nailing it, right? But yeah, but I mean, you killed it, girl. Like I watched
Thank you.
your video there and how excited you were, and I mean, even the wheels up in a big tire car with a stick and
So
bang gears, it
badass.
was awesome.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
fantastic.
my gosh. Well, thank
So
you. It was a lot.
yeah, so let me add, because on the page Stick Shift Nation, there are forever questions with the same issues you were having with oh, my trans, it won't shift at higher PM, it won't do this, it won't do that. And the reality of it is, with a hydraulic setup, it's because it's not fully disengaging. And that's what you found. You had to adjust the linkage to make sure
Yep.
you were getting the maximum stroke out of the master cylinder so it would actually release, because a synchronized transmission, it will not release. I'm sorry, it will not shift if it's not releasing. Faceplated is a little different. That's when you start to break stuff. But yeah, it's just a whole different, everything's got to be perfect. It's got to be right on the
It
money.
does. It does. And like I really enjoyed you know, I feel kind of like a noob when I'm talking to you guys about it right now because it's so different than what I'm used to. And I respect it. It's not that. It's just that I've never had any experience with it. So like this whole thing was a learning process. Um and like I really did enjoy it. It is a lot of driver skill. And I think if I spent more time in it, I would enjoy that. I enjoy, like, my car that I'm driving right now is a manual. Like I enjoy cruising around in that. We have a 55 Chevy at home that's a 6-speed. Like it's a good time. I have fun with it. But on the track, it's a totally different beast. Like once you're strapped in and your helmet's on and you're restricted in movement, everything is totally different. You can attest, like when had just pulled the Savoy out, as soon as we got it fired up to take it to the dyno, and I was out in the street and I made a couple like just, you know, quick passes down the street. I'm like, heck yeah, I got every shift. And I'm telling you, as soon as I strapped in, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. And really the picture changes when you start making a lot of power. I mean, you're making 800, 1,000 plus horsepower, because we're in, well, as you probably saw in the Savoy, I mean, Rich and I, we're in fourth gear by the 8th mile. There's a lot happening in the first 4 or 5 seconds. Yeah. So
there is.
Yeah. And the stuff that you don't realize, like when you're strapped in, even though you're strapped in, if the seat's not secure good enough and it throws you back, you can pull the thing out of gear, or then you can't access, you can't push the clutch down far enough. Like it all changes.
And like the balance of finding the ability to fully depress the clutch and not have your knees in your chest, for me, like I'm sure it's the same, but like I'm short. So like I like to drive close to the steering wheel, but I couldn't find the balance of not having my face in the steering wheel and actually being able to depress the clutch and setting your car up in that, with that in mind. Looking back, we would have changed stuff, but I'd never built. My dad, we hadn't built a car of that caliber with that combination. And so like there's stuff that I would change, but it was like even just the matter of like putting a hoodie behind my lower back to like push me a little bit farther forward so I didn't slide back off the pedal and stuff. It was really interesting. It was a learning experience.
Well, it's a challenge anyways. And then to throw cameras in your face and to throw pressure of being the previous champion. Yeah, honestly, you killed it.
Well, thank you.
Did they have a
super
timing?
proud.
Yeah. Did they tell you how fast they were, or it was all just arm drop?
They didn't, because it was also they knew the times, but it was only 550 feet. The track there is not a full 8th mile. And so we actually recently took it to the track. I don't know if you guys happen to see this video. Well, I took it to the track because we wanted to get a time on it last Monday. And I was a little bit nervous to drive the car because we kind of checked over it. I know I was, but
it's like that
my
every
dad
time, just so you know.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's the same for Rich. So we have winter time here every spring, and I go to the track. It's the same nervous. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Like I start off with the car turned way down and work my way back up, because you got to relearn it.
You do.
But go ahead.
No. We took it to the track, and I didn't want to make a pass. So let me back up. This is the first time I have been in California that it rained. And it come a torrential downpour. And we had just loaded the trailer onto the transport, and it was an open transport on top of this.
Oh,
And so, like,
nice.
I'm talking, yeah, so this thing's not sealed up. So, like, I put aluminum tape everywhere I could, but still, like, the thought of water being trapped in it, or something like that. And we get to the track, and it's torrential downpour there the day before as well, which never happens. So like in my mind, I'm like, oh, the water may be on the track, like it may seep, you know, all this. And I'm like, I'm gonna wait till the end of the day to make a pass on the Savoy. Well, they prepped this track like a radial track. Like I'm talking, pull your shoes off. And so like he's like, I got the track all prepped for you. And I'm like, thank you, kinda.
But
Like
yeah.
I was like, can you dry it for me? Because I'm gonna break something or this thing's not gonna go anywhere. And I mean Bakersfield is great, Famoso is great. So it works for a lot of our other cars, but we got up there with that. And like my dad's not there. I don't have anybody that's like actually crew that I'm used to racing with there. And the Savoy is the only real car on the show that's like a real race car. And so like they're trying to help, but still that like trust of like, did you check the tire pressure? Is it accurate? Like, you know, that trust that you have with your
Yeah.
people. It's not like we just don't have that because it's a different situation. And so like I go up to make my first pass, and I'm talking like tire shake like I've never experienced it. So I'm like, well, that broke something, or something was already broke. Like, gotta go check this out. And I'm like, it's okay. I'll turn around and make another pass. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot. I can't do that in this car because I forgot you have to have 45 minutes to cool down. So I'm just saying, like, I waited until the end of the day because I was gonna make pass after pass, and I'm like, I can't do that. So I had to make these passes back to back. Well, I had like 30 minutes to cool it down. I ran a car in between. It blew up, oiled down part of the track, whatever. So then I go back to make another pass in the Savoy. And I have to say, I don't know if I'm a fan of the combination of the big tire and the stick because it like upset, like it was upset in the car the whole way down. I don't know what actually caused it, but this car jerked left on me. It's the first time that I've ever been like, this car's about to like I'm about to put a car in the wall kind of thing. Like this thing turned left on me, and I'm like, no! Like I just shifted into fourth gear. Is the first time I'd ever been to fourth gear. Like I trying to get a time on it, so I was like, it's not gonna be that great, but I want a time, and so I'm like, okay, fourth gear, both hands on the steering wheel, and just like it was all fine for a split second, and then it's just like everything broke loose, and the car went straight left, went towards the wall. Really thankful for how that played out because I saved it, but it happened so quick. And I was like, I don't know, this is an interesting combination. This big tire stick thing.
And I know that at sick week, for all of us that had slicks and all those tracks prepared for radials, I mean, it was a struggle for everyone, right? I know Joe Barry, and I don't know about you guys too, but you know, for me on a stick, every time I'm asking, you know, which is the non-radial lane, and by the time we get up there, both of them are always radial. So I know I shook my tires at sick week too, and I got little tires, so I can only imagine the jarring you were taking with big tires and a stick.
Yeah, it was interesting. But something I have to say is like once you get that feel for shifting, it actually kind of is like riding a bike, I guess. You know, I'm not discrediting that by any means, but like I went out and I'm like, I'm gonna go out and miss my dang shift again. Like I've not been in the car for a little bit, you know. But I went out and I did not miss a shift. That was not the problem. It just did not. It was not a happy car, so I still don't have a time on it. And we pulled it back and like pulled it, checked everything I could on it. I don't think anything broke. I don't know if something was on the track. I don't know if the car was just upset from the balancing from, you know, in and out of it with the throttle. I don't know. So we got to evaluate what we want to do. If we keep it a manual, we may try to do some modifications.
What's this if? I think you need to take it on a drag and drive event. That's what you need to convince Hot Rod to go on drag week with it.
There's been some conversations of it.
Yes.
And I'm not opposed to it, but I would have to get a good feel for it, like with the combination actually being at the track under better circumstances. Because like I'm telling you, the other day it was intense. Like everybody was like scared to death. I come back and like the place is silent, and I'm like, guys, I'm right here, it's okay. And they're like, just staring at me like I'm a ghost. I'm like, it's okay. I'm fine. You guys are fine. We're all fine. The car's fine. They're like, we thought you were gonna wreck. I'm like, well, I thought so too. But
We're all on the
I
same
didn't.
page here.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm the one that should be scared right now. But I understand it from that point.
So you've driven, I mean, clearly you've driven some fast cars. How does it feel when it's made a decent pass or half pass? How does it feel? I mean, does it feel like it's going to pretty ezy run in the 5s and the 8th? I mean, I would think the power to weight ratio and
with the
everything.
Savoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Savoy, once we got it all right, got it dialed in, I mean, I think it would be an easy 8-second car. I shouldn't say easy. I think it would be an 8-second car.
Yeah.
With
well, you know,
with the yeah, once we got the gearing, got the transmission, you know, I know that there's different things we could do there. Once we got everything all set up, I think it could have potential. It's so light. The car's so light. It's got a great weight bias to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
how much does it weigh?
We had it down to 28, 23. No, I'm lying to you. 28. I need to look. I need to go back and look. We had it under 3,000. I think it was 28. Even with the weight we'd added to get the weight bias in the back, I think it was like 2850.
And that's with you in it.
Yeah. Yes. No.
Yeah.
No. It's right under 3,000 with me in it. So
okay.
With suit and everything. Yeah. So
Well,
that's pretty impressive.
You know, Bill and I will both tell you, like, once you get the clutch slipping enough that the launch is calm, the rest of the pass is good. Like probably like any car, but specifically with a clutch car, like if you can get the launch smooth enough and controlled enough and repeatable enough, the rest of it, banging gears, you'll figure that out pretty quick. But man, that launch is so important, because if it does anything goofy, it throws you off, and then you're rattled for the rest of the pass.
I can totally see that. I can, because go ahead.
Rich and I have talked about this so much. Like when the launch is a mess, you're behind the whole pass. But when it's smooth, you're like, oh, okay, here comes the 1-2 shift. All right. Here comes 7,000. Let's make the 2-3 shift and the 3-4, and then we're at the 8th mile. We'll make a little sandwich. And we'll pull the parachute. It's like, but when it's a mess, you're like just so you might as well just quit because it's so bad.
You're behind, but also mentally it throws you. Like I feel like, not that I've had a lot of experience driving a stick, but I can say that it's a process, which of course with like an automatic that you're actually shifting and things like that, there's still a process. But you're with a stick, you're coordinating 2 feet and a hand, you know, and the other hand's got to be steering. Like every limb is doing something different, and your brain's processing all of that, plus looking at the the tack. So like mentally, I feel like once that's off, like not only are you behind in time, like you're behind in your program there. You know, there's a lot to think about.
So your typical car is your 55, and that is an automatic. So what's your purse look like that you put in the back seat, because it's not a stick shift?
Yeah, I do actually carry a purse.
Well, I mean, if you drive an automatic, you carry a purse. That's just the way it is.
Oh man, I don't know. I can't say anything because I know the crowd that I'm with, and that's okay. I think there's a time and place for everything. I respect them both. So
I have lots of fun. I have lots of fun with your dad on this one. Yeah, your dad harasses me all the time. It's definitely some fun jabbing that goes on there.
For sure. And like, I mean, I can say it's a lot of fun, for that. But then stuff like for, the RVW car and the 55 and things like that. Like, I think there's a time and place, there's an application for everything, and there's a reason to do, both. And so like, I really enjoy getting to hop in different things and have experience with different combinations and setups and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a good time. We just got to look at what the Savoy is going to look like in the future, just for, what we want to do with it and what that may end up being. So I know David Freiberger. Go ahead.
That's their car, right? That's Hot Rod's car. It's not your car.
It is their car, but no one else is going to drive it. Not that I know of. So it's set up, they like to call it a child seat. is what it's set up for. I was like, look, guys, it's got to be comfortable for me because every other car in the shop is set up like a Giants seat. So it's like the 20 to 20. I didn't even know Kirky had a 22-inch seat, but like giant Kirky seats that I have to have like dinosaur child's seat pads to like stick behind my back. And so everybody's like, well, we're not driving the Savoy. Like no one else really, I don't know that anyone actually intends to drive the Savoy ever. I shouldn't say ever. I don't know what'll end up happening with the car, but for now, like they own it, but there's not anybody else that's going to be driving it. So
nice. And you will like the 5th and 6th gear when you actually get it on the road for a drag and drive. That's so nice. Yeah, it's so nice.
We just pulled the. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, did you get to drive it on the street at all, or?
I mean, Bill saw it. I drove it down the street. I didn't actually cruise it.
Yeah, let's take it easy, Alex. Let's make sure everything's broken in, and next thing it's like whop, 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 2-step banging gears. I'm like, well, you made the 2-3 shift pretty nice. She had this giant smile on her face. So I was like, yeah. Well, I guess it's gonna work.
Yeah, that was fun. So that's the closest to the street that it's came. But I don't know. We just pulled the third member. I pulled it last week because the way it made a move, I was like, this thing, something broke. Like something had to have broke. So we pulled the third member. It's on its way back to quick performance right now. Nothing is broke. I was hoping it was, but nothing's broke. But with the tire shake that we experienced, I thought it'd be a good idea for them to look at it. And I want to put different gears in it because if it ever does do a drag and drive, or if we do take it back to the track and stuff, we had like I don't remember if we went with a 430 something or 450 something gear. But it's all a little bit off for.
Yeah, if I remember right, with that tire, I think it's a 457, 456-ish ratio, I think is what you have.
Yeah. I couldn't remember because I know we discussed it and I still can't remember which one we ended up with, but
yeah, and
so
our experience with the stick is the more power you make, the less rear gear, because otherwise the launch becomes so aggressive, all the torque multiplication with the gear, and it just tends to make it pretty violent on the launch, which upsets everything. So, and that's kind of what you experienced. So yeah,
that I didn't do.
Yeah.
No, and this, I think as we go forward, like that's where discussing with you, like, and like Rich was saying with, figuring out the right amount of slip and things like that, I'm gonna be calling you guys because don't know how to fix that. You guys have the advice.
We'll get you squared away. Don't worry.
Oh, perfect. I think we need it.
Do you think you can convince your dad to build a stick car at some point?
Probably not. I mean, he would do it if like we really wanted, like if I don't know, if I was like, this is absolutely what I want to do. I mean, I'm sure we would look at the options of doing it, but I want to do something. I think the next thing that like we want to tackle is I want to get the 55 running what it should run. And I think we eventually want to look at building another car, a lighter car, and just hunting times. So for that, it probably won't be. I mean, I can't say. I don't know. We always have so many different projects that I don't know what we'll end up with, but that'd probably be a hard one to do.
Well, in all fairness, the Ranchero he sold, and the guy that bought it put a stick in it, and I think your dad did a bit of that work, didn't he?
Yeah. So he has the G-force in it.
Yeah, and that thing's worked pretty well. I mean, it's impressive with the big wheel stands it does, so it's pretty cool.
Jared's a really good driver with that too.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met Jared, he told like we didn't know Jared Scott, when he bought the Ranchero, and he told Dad rebuilt it for him and they put a Hemi in it, and then did the G-force transmission. And my dad drove it around for the first time, and he's like, this thing's gonna be miserable on the street driving that combination, And Jared showed up with his lime green socks. He'd just come in from a business trip, but I didn't know this. So he had his dress shoes on, his lime green socks, his little button-up polo plaid looking shirt. And I'm like, I looked at my dad and I'm like, this dude can't drive that. Like, there's no way that he can drive that car. And he totally surprised us. He went out there and like he kills it. Like, that's a fun car to watch. And he's like, no, I like it. This is fun. He loves driving it, and he's actually really good at it. But it was so funny when I first met him. I'm like, there is no way this guy can do that.
That's
It was
awesome.
cool.
That's awesome.
And just to back you up a bit, so what are your goals for the 55? How fast should it go?
I want to be deeper in the sixes. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. The 55 is like moving. It's a brick, but it still feels very stable at like 205 on the top end. And we're got the mile an hour to be, deeper into the sixes. It started the 650s. I would say that I'd love to see 650s, and I hope that we get close to that. But it's hard to say because I don't know yet. We're building a new transmission and engine for it, so Dad can finally have his parts back for the Nova.
For the Nova, yeah.
Yeah, but it's been parts are just a nightmare right now. So got lots of stuff. Most of the transmission stuff's ordered. A lot of stuff for the new motor, like heads, I've already got. Got a lot of components, but the block is the big holdup right now. The block and the crank. So
Are you
I don't
guys?
know. I don't think we'll.
So go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't think we'll have it before sick week, but hopefully sometime earlier next year.
Okay.
And are you having any cars at PRI? Is the Savoy going to be there?
This well, no, the Savoy won't be. The 55 will. I was hoping the Savoy would be at SEMA, but I don't know what happened.
Well, we'll definitely see you at PRI.
You guys gonna be there the whole week?
Yeah.
What are you gonna have there?
What's that?
Are you having something special there? Is there gonna be a party at PRI? You sound like you have something hidden there.
No, it's be like 9 of us in an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, it should be a good time. It's a little bit of an unknown sort of. I mean, we have one dinner reservation, but the rest of it's fairly open. So
well, that just leaves room for like lots of goodness. That'll be fun.
We're just waiting for invites from you.
Oh, okay. Well, I have no idea what I'm doing, but you're invited to it.
So. Which booth is the 55 in?
It's going to be an Iski's booth. So
we've
kind of been joking because Alex Taylor, Dennis Taylor, we're going to have Scott Taylor from Street Outlaws. He'll be in there. So like over half of the badges that Nolan from Iski has say some form of Taylor on them. So like we're renaming this to Taylor Racing Cams. We're the Taylor booth this year, which it's just funny. It's going to be a good time. So
nice.
Yeah.
So when this is just a question we have some audience questions here, but when did you actually realize, and I think you already answered this, that you wanted to pursue racing as a career instead of just a hobby?
It's kind of interesting because I never really, I don't know. So it's kind of complex because I never really set out with the intent of it being my career, but I also knew that I didn't want to be anywhere else except in the automotive industry. So like even now people ask me like, Alex, what does it look like in 5 years for you? And I'm like, I have no idea, because like I don't want to be so dead set on one single goal that I miss opportunities along the way.
Yeah.
Like had I set my goals on driving a pro mod earlier this year, I would have probably never had the opportunity, not never, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity at that time to drive that car because I would have been so hyper focused on that I wouldn't have been at an NMCA event in, Florida just for fun. So like, that's kind of my point. Like, I know that I want to go faster. I want to do this stuff. I want to do that. So like, my point is like, I didn't actually set out with that being my end game. I always said, I was like, I don't know if I want to drive, be in front of a camera, behind the camera, what it looks like. I just know I want to be in the industry. And that's just like, cars have been, I know it's that whole cliche of like, it's in your blood kind of thing, but I did not know that waking up and talking about cars, eating lunch, talking about cars, sitting around cars all day, going to dinner, every vacation was around cars. Like, I didn't know that wasn't normal. That's all I ever did. Like, we literally only do cars. And so like, that's what I thought, And so I guess I would say I couldn't even put a time on it. Like when I came to Drag Week, I didn't come with the intent of doing like social media. That was even before social media was really what it is now. So I don't know. I just knew that when I see a car and it starts and I get to sit in it and then drive it, it makes me happy. And I keep pursuing what makes me happy, and it's race cars.
Yeah,
That ain't so bad.
yeah, yeah. And you know, I think what's hard to explain to people who don't drag race is when you put all that time and effort in, and you know, I watch you guys build all those cars, and same with Bill and I. And then you go make a pass, because how many times during the build you're like, what am I killing myself for? Then you go make an 8-second pass or a 7-second pass or a 6-second pass, and you get to the end of the track and it's like, oh yeah, it's like
totally
give me some more of that. Like
it totally is.
Yeah.
Totally is. It's like drag and drive. You know, like in the middle of the week, you're like, I'm dying, I need a nap. And then at the end of it, you're like, when's the next one? Like, there's a countdown? Where's that kind of thing? You know? And it's even like last night, like we were out at this mega cash days, and Nick Taylor had he does drag and drive stuff too, but he was racing a Fox Body Mustang. Nicky Bobby, yeah, racing Johnny Cash. And so he was driving it, and like he made one pass and just totally toasted the transmission. And so like we thrashed, like intense, swapping this transmission. We didn't know how much time we had. We had like 30 minutes, you know, and it's just like chaos. But you know, we made it up with seconds to spare, literally as the countdown of the clock was on, pulled into the lanes and like sent it, and the car did so good. And it was like the rush after, like in the middle of that swap, it's like, you know, it kind of sucks, it's fun, but it sucks, and like all this, and then you have that one good pass and it's like, this is so fun, like this is so addicting. And I'm like, man, I'm glad we hurt something, because it made it even more worth it, you know.
Yeah, it is crazy, like you said, the middle of a race week, especially when it's not going ideal. You're like, let's see, I paid for this and I signed up for this foolishness voluntarily, what is wrong with me? And then you make a good pass and you're like, give me some more of that.
It's so and like the other day, you can't just like make people, you can't describe that feeling to someone. That's one of the things with the Savoy when we took it up there, because like these people are like, so we're building this whole car for a 4 or 5 second pass. And I'm like, yeah, we are. 1 5-second pass, that's all we need. And they're like, that's a lot of work. And I'm like, but just wait, the feeling's going to be amazing. And so like I knew that we had to win, because like I wanted to convey that feeling. It was the first time they were going to experience. And afterwards they're like, winning is fun. It's just so cool. They're like, my hands are shaking. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's awesome. Like even if you don't win, you make that pass. And like there was a girl from our crew the other day at the track, and she just had like her little, I don't even know what she has, but it's like a, you know, a little SUV kind of thing. And she made her first pass, and she came back and she told me, she's like, this is nothing like I thought. This is so much fun, you know. And it was you know, it was a slow pass, but it's just the feeling of doing it, and it was so cool.
It's all relative. It's funny when anybody talks to people that aren't really into cars yet. And people always say, well, you know, I'm not into cars. I'm like, well, did you walk here today?
Yeah.
But like you put them in like a 14-second car and they're used to driving a Honda Civic or something like stock, like that's fast. And you have to work up to it, because after you drive an 8-second car, you know, a 12-second car is like, yeah, it runs okay. But for some people, like that's nuts. And
it is.
And it's cool. Like a 15-second car is a fast street car in the beginning, like where you start out. And I think people have to start somewhere, and you don't want to put somebody in an 8 or 9-second car, because they're going to kill themselves. Like it's terrifying. So
it is. And people have such a warped perspective on what a fast car is now, because I know even like in 2015 or whatever, 2016, you know, earlier in my drag and drive stuff, if I could have run an 850, I would have had one of the faster cars. And I remember like we came back capable of that, and the very next year everybody was running 850s. And like we say now, like a 7-second car is the new 8-second car, you know, like the access to power and the access to, you know, making a car work like that, those parts, has become so easy that people have a warped perspective on it. But like I think it's so important to progress, you know, not just you know, people were nervous when I hopped in the pro mod. They're like, she's not ready for it. And I'm like, what's in between? What's in between the 55 and that? Like, there's not a lot of steps, but they forget that there's been, you know, 8 years, 9 years of driving prior to that, that you just learn to refine your motor skills and
Yeah.
slow movements and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had some sketchy passes in the 55 that you've handled, right? Like going from bad marrow to the 55, going small tire to big tire, and the different way you treat that car compared to a small tire. That's not the same, right? So
Man, when I got in the 55 for the first time and made the first hits in it, I was like, I couldn't make a full pass. Like we ran in Memphis for the day, and I'm very cautious with like when I make passes. I'm not the whole like send it, and if it breaks or I wreck, like cool, we'll fix it. Like,
Yeah.
I like a good calculated risk. Like I want to be safe about it. I want to play it smart. Like we can come back and we can make another pass. And so like I launched and like came back and they're like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. This thing felt pretty wild, guys. And so I had to ease into like figuring out what, oh, did I let you guys know there?
Nope.
I had to figure out what it looked like, you know, the big tire walk and like things like that. Like it's just a different feeling. So going from, you know, small tire to big tire was a lot more drastic. Going from, you know, big tire to a fast small tire car, that was an easier transition.
Interesting.
very cool.
So Rich, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, I think that, you know, we talk about how much fun it is to make a pass and then to make a pass and then drive the car home. Like I know for me this weekend, I mean, I broke the transmission and the diff. I brought both because I thought I might break them. So I roll back to the pits, and 2 hours later, I have my spare transmission in, a spare 9-inch, and then I drive home in a winter snowstorm, passing all kinds of people, passing all kinds of people like SUVs and trucks in the ditch, and I'm passing them on the road. They're doing like 30 miles an hour, and I'm going by them at 60, 65 in like a whiteout snowstorm.
In an 8-second streetcar.
In an 8-second streetcar. And I tell you, that feeling of pulling into the garage after accomplishing that struggle just feels so good, right? It's like it's like, I got to go to work and just do work. Like
I know.
It's not the same challenge, right? And that accomplishment and this of the struggle, and like to your point, I mean, I'm sure Nicky Bobby, if he just would have went out and nailed it every time, it's not the same as actually breaking, fixing, and racing and doing good. Oh, that's just such a good, it just makes, it's so good.
It does. It totally changes it. And like that's so cool because, you know, to be able to do what you just did, because something else that I've noticed is like drag and drive crew is built different. Like the people that do drag and drive have such a different mindset. Like you anticipate the worst. It's like the trophy truck of, you know, it's the endurance trophy truck of drag racing. And so it's like, you know, there's the debate of like, well, drag and drive's not real racing, drag and drive's not this. And it's like, it's just a different form of it, because like nobody else would do what you did. Not nobody, but you know, like a lot of drag racing forms, they load the car in the trailer and pull it home, and it's fine. They'll get to it in a week or 2 weeks. But like all of us drag and drive people know that like we got to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, but expect that that's not going to happen, you know? And I think it's really cool to see like drag and drive events, because people really know their cars. Like they know them on a different level than a lot of drag race events. Like drag racers know their cars because like we have to know them. We have to be able to, you know, rip it apart and diagnose the problem and fix it in the middle of nowhere on the side of the road.
Yeah. Awesome. So Rich, is this a good segue to the TKO round?
I do have a couple more questions.
Okay.
So
yeah.
What's your next event, Alex? Are you going to do another, you think you'll do Sick Week or something, or are you not sure?
Yeah. So PRI is the first with the 55, and I would love to have the new motor and transmission on it. I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll go testing at some point in probably January or February. And then we have Sick Week. I'm going to do all of Bailey's races this year. That's the goal anyways. And then we have an NHRA race, which that's a totally different world, tell you what. But we are going to Chicago. NHRA is coming back to Chicago in May. And Peak is the presenting sponsor for that. And I work pretty closely with Peak. And so we're going to do a heads up shootout. I don't know what the details are on it yet. We're still trying to figure it out at that. So that'll be pretty cool to have, some drag and drive crew over there.
And you'll do that in the 55?
Yep. So
okay.
In between rounds, there'll be, 4 to 8 cars, whatever that's going to look like.
Nice.
And bring that over there. I don't know what the schedule is like. I have it on every to-do list that I have that I need to figure out my schedule for next year. But I just haven't had time. So I don't know yet. Are you guys going to sick week?
I am, yeah.
I am
driving with my
nice.
dad. He's 80 years old now, so I don't think Kyle from Boosted Lifestyle wants to sit in the back of that GTO for that many hours this time. So it sounds like it'll be just my dad and I. But yeah, I'm super pumped. There's a bunch of Canadians coming for that. So
that's really awesome.
I think I'm the only wingnut that's driving, but
you're wild. You're a really different breed.
yeah, I got dropped lots as a kid. But yeah, so that's my PRI. No car there, but then then sick week is the big one. I'm trying to get ready for it because it's you got to be pretty dedicated because it's 70. Last time it was 7,550 miles or something from my house there and back.
That hurts me to think about. That's a lot. That's awesome though. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's why don't we roll into the do we want to we'll ask her about all the social media stuff after the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have, because I know you're relatively new to stick stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A TKO is a 5-speed transmission.
Okay.
And we have what we call the TKO round, and we have 5 questions.
Okay.
So I'll start it off with first gear, and you kind of answered this, but what was the first car you owned and modified?
68 Camaro.
Got it. Bad Marrow.
Yep, Bad Marrow.
Yep. All right, that one was easy.
And where is that car now? Just sitting
at home?
It
is sitting in the shop in a very drivable condition, actually, surprisingly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so second gear, what in your opinion has been the biggest technology change to move our sport forward?
That's hard to answer, but I feel like kind of going back to that where we touched on earlier within the last, I don't know, 5 years of just like power being so accessible. I feel like EFI, in the last 5 years, like the Holly stuff has been a big impact on like putting it on cars, and it's, they've got so many different options. Maybe, I don't know, quality parts at a cheap price, I think is what it's become, like just the availability of parts in general.
Except blocks.
That answer so.
Yeah. Except blocks and crankshafts right now, right?
Exactly. But like think to expand upon my answer, like think of how many people can go get an LS motor junkyard and slap a eBay turbo on it and like make it perform. Like it's just the advanced manufacturing of parts, the stuff that makes it where power is easy to achieve kind of thing.
Yep. It's stupid easy to make 1,000 horse. It really is.
Maybe even the internet, I know that's not a direct answer for a part, but like knowledge is so readily available now. Like you can search what you need to know and you can figure out a solution for it. So
true.
I don't know. I think it's just the accessibility in general.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer because you think about Matt Happel and it's really rejuvenated hot rodding in my mind because it was getting so expensive that 18, 19-year-old kid, even though they had the passion, didn't have the money. But now you can go get a junkyard motor for $500 and you may or may not change the rings or do something, and you can have yourself a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's a great answer. Yep.
All right, we're gonna go do the 2-3 shift in the third gear.
I can do that one. Okay.
I know you can. You got to palm it. That's the way. That's the trick. And again, you kind of answered this one already, but what is your day job?
I don't even know how to describe it. I just say builder, racer, co-host, automotive content creator. I don't know. Alex Taylor being
Influencer.
Alex.
Yeah.
Influencer.
I deny that term. I deny that term.
Well,
So yeah, that's a hard one. It's just, high performance automotive industry, somewhere in that definition.
I like that. I like that. Nice.
okay, fourth gear. What influences you to build your cars? Like, what's your motivation?
Oh, it's just for the car specifically, I think it's the satisfaction that comes from seeing something that you create come to fruition and seeing it perform. So like when, for example, like with Hot Rod Garage now, people are asking, like, I get to start coming up with the projects and they're like, what do you want to build? And I tell them, I'm like, what is our goal? And so like with my dad and stuff, something I really enjoy is because we build the projects and we get to go with the intent of doing something. And so like having that end goal in mind, I think is what motivates or fuels my desire to do those specific projects, like building with like a goal. But for being in the automotive industry in general, it's getting to like share a passion and help keep a genre and like a lifestyle alive that I hope to help propel that. So everybody talks about it's dying, and I'm like, no, it's not dying, and I think we can save it. It's just adapting as it comes. And so like getting to be the bridge between the older and the newer generation and stuff like that, and like bringing in and inspiring younger people and things, younger and older alike, that's what keeps me in the industry. And then there's the fact that like it's the giggle factor. Like you look at a car and you hear it start and you're like, I don't know why I'm happy now, but I'm really happy. So it's a multifaceted answer to that.
Nice. All right, so fifth gear. What,
Okay.
in your opinion, is the secret to stick shift racing?
Practice, like
Oh,
in the
that's
sense
good.
of like routine. I think it's establishing a routine, because that's like going back to earlier, like maybe once I got more advanced in it and I could actually talk about the setup and the combination and this is the tricks and things like that, maybe I'd have a more detailed answer. But from a new person's perspective, if somebody wanted to get into it I've not done this before, it's getting your routine down and figuring that out, because if you don't have that, your feet, your hands, and your brain and everything's got to talk to each other, and it's just seat time.
That's a perfect answer, and I like the fact that you're coming from the perspective of someone relatively new to it. So I think that's perfect.
Awesome.
Right, because I don't have the technical side there.
No, it's good.
Okay, we're going to shift into a T56 question, so a sixth gear. So what advice would you give to someone getting into this sport?
I think is just to get started, and that seems like a duh, but a lot of people let the fear of like failure stop them from like beginning somewhere. And I think it goes back to the whole prepare for the worst, but and things like that. Expect the good, don't expect the good, however you feel. But like just get started, find something you really love. Don't be so dead set on, like, I think a lot of people right now are getting into the sport for maybe not the wrong reasons, but because they have an end goal in mind that may not be, it's harder to achieve when you don't let your passion show, like you need to have that passion and you need to be willing to learn, because there's a lot of people that think they know, but they don't know what they don't know. And so that's the whole problem. That's why they know. So it's like, there's so many people that are a phone call, a message, Google away from helping you and being willing to help. I think it's just like understanding that you're not going to be the top dog the first time you go out, and like it's a process and you just got to enjoy that process along the way.
Again, awesome answer. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, first of all, we really appreciate your time. You've been a fantastic guest, which we knew you would be. I mean, it's not a surprise.
Thank you,
to us. And I don't know where you have to be tonight.
1 a.m.
I have
flight.
to 1 a.m. flight. Gotta go pack my bag. Actually, I have
it's-
2 hours of driving back, and then I'm gonna go pack it up.
Okay. Okay.
But no, thank you guys for having me because I know I'm new to the stick shift world here, but learning it. So thanks for having me. And thanks for the advice and the advice that I'm gonna ask for in the future.
You're very welcome ahead of time.
Yes, please do.
So we'll put a huge thanks out to Stick Shift Nation for hosting this, and Travis is kind of in the background, and he'll be inserting some videos and pictures and stuff in the podcast. And you can find Clutch Burners podcast on 9 different platforms, audio, and then of course the video on YouTube. So you can see all of our beautiful faces if you want to see it.
At least this time there is one. Anyway.
right, fair enough. 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oh man, come on, guys.
And of course, if you want to see this podcast continue to grow and prosper, just head over to stickracing.com, grab a Stick Shift Nation hat, shirt, or sticker. And this evening I am sporting a Clutch Burners t-shirt.
I saw that.
So we're gonna have these available soon too. So go on there for that. Rich, you said you had more questions for her.
Well, I was just going to say, tell us a little bit about your social media. So you have Riding with Alex Taylor, and what else?
Yep. So that's my YouTube is Riding with Alex Taylor. I'm a little bit slow on posting videos. Everybody likes to remind me that they will get out. And then all my other stuff is Alex Taylor Racing. Facebook, Instagram. It's really the only 2 I use, but
nice.
TikTok. I don't use it.
You're talking about so does Motor Trend release a show every week on
So I'm learning how this schedule stuff at Motor Trend works. We are currently on a mid-season break. I don't know if you guys knew that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. I believe we're coming back from our mid-season break within the next week or two. So we will have it releases every Monday on the app, and then in mid-December you'll be able to actually get it on regular linear TV. So starting there. So we just wrapped up our first season, and we're getting ready to start our second.
Awesome. I got the app, so I'll have to get on there and watch the latest Savoy. We were going to get some shirts made called like 1360 or something for all of us that don't go straight down the track.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do.
There's 1320 for straight, and then there's
yeah, exactly.
That's actually a great shirt idea.
All right, awesome. Well, hang on here for a second, but otherwise I think we'll wrap this up. And again, super appreciate your time.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.
See you guys.